They told me freedom was a gift. They lied. Freedom isn't free. Freedom has a price tag, and the currency is pain. Not the kind of pain you get from a paper cut or a sore back. I'm talking about pain that rips through your bones, burns in your lungs, and makes you wish for a way out. But there is no way out. If you want to be free, truly free, you have to pay in full. And I learned it the hard way. It was 4:37 in the morning. My legs were shaking so bad I thought my knees might give out. My shirt was drenched. My throat was raw, and my body had been screaming at me to stop for the last hour. But stopping wasn't an option. The cold wind sliced through my wet clothes. My breath came out in short, sharp gasps that turned into little clouds in the air. The world was still dark, but in my mind, the sun was burning me alive. I was on mile 57 of a 100-mile race. I had no business running. My ankles were swollen. My hands were numb. Every step felt like I was walking on broken glass. And here's the truth. I wasn't doing it for a medal. I wasn't doing it for applause. I was doing it because pain was the toll I had to pay to break the chains I'd carried my whole life. They told me freedom was a gift. They lied. Freedom isn't handed to you wrapped in shiny paper. It's earned, and the currency is pain. Not just physical pain, the kind that digs its claws into your mind, makes you question why you even exist, and whispers that giving up would be easier. That's the price. It was 4:37 in the morning. My legs were trembling like they were about to snap. Sweat had soaked through my shirt hours ago, now turning ice cold against my skin. My lungs burned with every breath, the cold air cutting like shards of glass down my throat. Mile 57 of 100, the road ahead was a black ribbon disappearing into the darkness. My ankles felt like they were filled with fire, my knees grinding like old gears. Every step was a war. But I wasn't here for glory, not for a medal, not for applause. I was here because pain was the toll I had to pay to get free. Free from the weight of the man I used to be, free from the excuses, free from the life that had kept me small. I didn't sign up for this race to prove to the world I was tough. I signed up because there was still a prison inside my mind, and I wasn't getting out without bleeding for it. The funny thing about pain, it's the most honest thing you'll ever meet. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what you've done. It only cares about one question. Are you willing to keep moving when there's nothing left in you? Do you want me to continue straight into rock bottom, where I describe the chains of my old life in gritty personal detail that will start building the first big emotional cycle? Most people never see the chains they're wearing. I did, and they weren't made of steel. They were forged out of every excuse I'd ever told myself. I'm too tired. I'm not built like those guys. I'll start tomorrow. Each excuse was another link in the chain, another layer of weight around my neck. You live like that long enough, you forget what it's like to breathe without it. I grew up with a front row seat to failure. My house was a battlefield. My father's temper was a storm that never ended, and my mother's silence was the sound of surrender. Money was always gone before the month was over. Some nights, so was dinner. At school, I was the slow kid, the one picked last, the one laughed at. Teachers told me I wasn't smart enough. Friends told me I wasn't tough enough, and deep down I believed them. You get told you're worthless enough times, it becomes your truth. By the time I was in my 20s, I was fat, broke, and invisible. I'd wake up, drag myself to a job I hated, come home and numb myself with junk food and mindless TV. Every day felt like I was drowning in slow motion. And here's the worst part, I wasn't even fighting. One night I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My face was bloated, eyes bloodshot, skin pale. I didn't recognize the man staring back. My own eyes looked dead. That's when it hit me. No one was coming to save me. Not my friend, not my family, not some miracle. If I wanted freedom, I was going to have to fight for it, and fighting meant pain. But I didn't know yet just how much pain it would take. And that's when the first test. It started with a phone call. My buddy from high school, the one who joined the military while I stayed home making excuses, was back in town. He asked if I wanted to go for a run. A run? I laughed. Yeah, sure. How far? Nothing crazy, he said. Just 5 miles. 5 miles. In my mind, that was a death sentence. I hadn't run 5 minutes in years, but something inside me whispered, say yes. So I did. The next morning, I stood at the trailhead in old basketball shorts, a faded t-shirt, and shoes that looked like they'd been sitting in a closet since the 90s. He showed up in lightweight running gear, calm as if we were going for coffee. The first mile felt okay, I thought. Maybe I've still got it. By mile 2, my lungs were on fire. By mile 3, I wanted to quit so bad my brain started making deals. Just stop. You can always start tomorrow, no shame in walking. By mile 4, every step was a negotiation. My legs felt like lead, sweat burned my eyes, my breath was a wheezing mess. And that's when he looked at me and said, "You got more in you. Don't you dare quit." Those words hit me like a slap because deep down I knew he was right. I did have more, I just never demanded it from myself. When we finally finished the 5 miles, I collapsed on the curb, hands on my knees, gasping like a dying animal. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ear. But under all that exhaustion, there was something else, something I hadn't felt in years. It was pride. Not the fake kind you post online, the kind you earn when you push past the points you thought was possible. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. If 5 miles could make me feel this alive, what else was I capable of? But I didn't realize then that was just a warm-up. The real test was coming, one that would break me in half before it built me back up. 2 weeks later, I made a decision that would change my life. I was scrolling online late at night when I saw it. A charity ultramarathon, 100 miles, a race built for seasoned runners, the kind of people who eat marathons for breakfast. I had no business even thinking about it, but something inside me said, if you want freedom, this is the door. Without overthinking, I signed up. No training plan, no coach, no fancy gear, just a stubborn idea I'd show up and I'd find a way to finish. Race day came faster than I expected. It was cold enough that my breath fogged the air. Runners around me looked like warriors, lean, focused, every muscle trained for this moment. I felt like a fraud standing among them, but it was too late to turn back. The first 20 miles went better than I thought. My legs were fresh, my breathing steady. But somewhere after mile 30, reality hit like a sledgehammer. My quads locked up. My feet felt like they were full of nails. Every step was a small explosion of pain. By mile 40, I was staggering. People passed me like I was standing still. My hands went numb. My stomach turned. A medic at an aid station asked if I wanted to quit. The thought sounded beautiful. Warm blanket, hot soup, no more pain. But then I remembered the man I'd seen in the mirror months before. The one with dead eyes, the one chained down by comfort. If I quit now, I'd be that man forever. So I kept going. And mile by mile, something inside me started to change. The pain didn't get less, it got worse. But I realized pain wasn't the enemy. It was the doorway. Every step through it was another chain breaking. When I hit mile 57, I was barely holding on. My vision blurred. My legs shook like they were made of glass. And that's when the voice in my head said, "This is it. This is where you find out who you are." Mile 60. That's where the darkness closed in. The world around me shrank to the sound of my footsteps and the pounding in my skull. My legs weren't just tired anymore. They were foreign objects, like someone else's body had been bolted onto mine. My calves were knotted so tight it felt like they might snap. Every step sent lightning up my spine. My hands were swollen. My lips cracked and dry. I could feel my heartbeat in my teeth. The aid station at mile 61 looked like heaven. Bright lights, people sitting in folding chairs, wrapped in warm blankets, steam rising from cups of soup. A medic waved me over. "You're done," he said, just by looking at me. I didn't argue. I sat down. My head dropped forward, and in that moment I wanted to disappear. This was the exit I'd been waiting for, the easy way out, dressed as safety. But then I heard a runner leaving the station say to his buddy, "Man, that guy looked like he quit a long time ago." Those words hit me harder than the pain ever could. Quit. That was the word I'd been running from my whole life. I stood up. My legs screamed in protest. The medic shook his head. "You can't go back out there." I looked him dead in the eye. "Watch me." And I walked back into the dark. The next miles were hell. My body broke down piece by piece. My toenails felt like they were tearing off. My hips ground together. But in that suffering, something happened. The fear was gone. The doubt was gone. All that was left was forward. I realized then pain is not the wall, pain is the path. And if I wanted freedom, this was the price I had to keep paying. By mile 70, the sun was gone and the temperature dropped like a stone. The warmth I'd stored for the day was gone, replaced by a bone-deep chill that crept under my skin and made my teeth chatter uncontrollably. The trail had turned into a tunnel of shadows. My headlamp cut a weak circle of light in front of me, but everything outside that beam was just blackness, like the world had ended and I was the last one left walking. Fatigue became something more than tiredness. My thoughts blurred. I started seeing things that weren't there. A chair in the middle of the trail, a figure standing off to the side. I'd blink and they'd be gone. That's when the voices came. Not the voice of doubt, not even the voice of reason, but the voice of comfort. Sit down for just a second. You've done enough. No one will care if you stop now. And that's the most dangerous voice of all, because it sounds kind, it sounds reasonable, but it's the voice that's been stealing from you your whole life. Somewhere in that endless night, I stopped thinking in miles. I stopped thinking about the finish line. I only thought about the next step, the next breath, the next forward motion. Every now and then I'd see another runner's light ahead and push just hard enough to catch it. I didn't know their names, didn't care about their pace. I just knew that chasing those little dots of light kept me from disappearing into the dark. The hours crawled by. My legs were beyond pain now. They felt hollow, like there was nothing inside them at all. My hands were so cold I couldn't open energy gels without my teeth. But somewhere between mile 80 and mile 90, the black sky began to fade, and I realized the night was ending. The cold would still be there, the pain would still be there, but so would the light. And in that moment, I knew I was going to finish. The first hints of dawn broke across the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and red. The light was weak, but after that endless night, it felt like fire on my skin. Mile 90, 10 miles left. That's when the math started in my head. Just 10 miles, just a few hours. You've come too far to quit now. But my body didn't care about the math. My knees felt like shattered glass grinding with every step. The skin on my heels had peeled away. I could feel raw flesh rubbing against my socks. My shoulders ached from hours of swinging my arm. I passed an aid station. They offered me food, but I couldn't chew. My jaw hurt too much. I just drank water, nodded, and kept moving. Every step was a negotiation with pain. One more step, then you can rest. One more breath, then you can walk. But the truth was, I couldn't stop. If I stopped now, my legs might lock and never start again. Somewhere around mile 95, I heard it faint at first, then louder, cheering, cowbells, music. The finish line was still out of sight, but the sound pulled me forward like a magnet. And then, with half a mile to go, I saw it, the banner, the crowd, the line between me and the man I used to be. My vision blurred, not from exhaustion this time, but from tears. Those last steps were the slowest and the fastest of my life. The slowest because my body was barely holding together, the fastest because my soul was already on the other side. When my foot hit that line, I didn't raise my arms. I didn't shout. I just stood there shaking, every muscle on fire, breathing in the air of freedom, because I knew now freedom isn't something you're given. Freedom is something you earn, and the price is pain. The first hints of dawn broke across the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and red. The light was weak, but after that endless night, it felt like fire on my skin. Mile 90, 10 miles left. That's when the math started in my head. Just 10 miles, just a few hours. You've come too far to quit now. But my body didn't care about the math. My knees felt like shattered glass grinding with every step. The skin on my heels had peeled away. I could feel raw flesh rubbing against my side. My shoulders ached from hours of swinging my arms. I passed an aid station. They offered me food, but I couldn't chew. My jaw hurt too much. I just drank water, nodded, and kept moving. Every step was a negotiation with pain. One more step, then you can rest. One more breath, then you can walk. But the truth was, I couldn't stop. If I stopped now, my legs might lock and never start again. Somewhere around mile 95, I heard it faint at first, then louder, cheering, cowbells, music. The finish line was still out of sight, but the sound pulled me forward like a magnet. And then, with half a mile to go, I saw it. The banner, the crowd, the line between me and the man I used to be. My vision blurred, not from exhaustion this time, but from tears. Those last steps were the slowest and the fastest of my life. The slowest because my body was barely holding together. The fastest because my soul was already on the other side. When my foot hit that line, I didn't raise my arms. I didn't shout. I just stood there, shaking, every muscle on fire, breathing in the air of freedom, because I knew now freedom isn't something you're given, freedom is something you earn, and the price is pain. I used to think freedom meant doing whatever you wanted, sleeping in, eating what you crave, avoiding hard things, but that's not freedom. That's a cage with padded wall. Real freedom is earned, and the toll you pay is suffering. You want a better body, pain. You want a sharper mind, pain. You want to break out of the life you hate, pain. That race didn't just change my body, it burned the old me to the ground. Mile by mile, I killed the man who lived for comfort. I buried the man who quit when things got hard, and in his place I built someone I actually respected. Here's the thing, you don't need to run 100 miles to find your freedom, but you do need to step into the fire. You need to pick something that scares you, something that hurts, and do it until it no longer owns you. Stop waiting for the right time. Stop telling yourself you'll start when you feel ready. You will never feel ready, and that's the point. Every day you wake up, you've got a choice. Pay the price now or keep living in debt to the life you could have had. I'm not here to tell you it's easy. I'm telling you it's worth it, because on the other side of pain is freedom. So lace up, step forward, and pay the price. Most people have no idea what it feels like to be broken every single day. Not for one day, not for 1 week, but for months. But I do. It was called Hell Week. Picture this, it's 2 in the morning. The Pacific Ocean is black and endless. The air is freezing, and you're ordered to lock arms with 6 other men and lie down in the surf, letting wave after wave crash over your face. The cold stabs into your bones, your teeth rattle so hard you think they'll shatter. Your body goes numb, but your mind feels everything. And the instructors are screaming, quitting is easy. Just ring the bell, warm bed, hot meal, no more pain. Every hour, more men quit. You hear the clang of the bell in the distance, one by one as they walk away. And every clang is like a siren in your own head saying, you can stop right now. Sleep deprivation breaks you in ways you can't imagine. 5 days, maybe 2 hours of rest in total. Your body eats itself. Your brain feels like it's melting, yet you still have to run, swim, carry boats on your head until your neck feels like it's snapping. At one point, I was carrying a log with 6 other men. My shoulders were raw, my legs buckling. I thought, this is it. This is the moment I break. But then I looked to my left. The guy next to me, smaller, skinnier, was still pushing. No complaint, no excuses. And that's when I realized something. The limits I thought were mine weren't real. They were lies. Your mind will quit 1,000 times before your body ever does. The question is, which voice are you going to listen to? The first time I tried to pull up in front of other people, I barely got three. And I wasn't even strict with form. They were ugly, half reps, more like convulsions than pull-ups. The guys around me laughed, man, you're too heavy for that bar. Stick to push-ups, big guy. That laughter burned deeper than the pain in my arms. But here's the truth most people never learn. Humiliation is a gift because it puts a mirror in front of you that you can't ignore. That night, my arms ached so bad I could barely wash my hair. But instead of running from that pain, I made a deal with myself. This weakness is not permanent. I built a pull-up bar in my garage. Every morning before work, every night after work, I'd hang from that bar. And I didn't care if I did 1 rep, 2 reps, or none. The rule was simple. Touch the bar every day. Weeks turned into months. My hands tore open, calluses built up. My shoulders screamed. I failed thousands of times, thousands. But each failure was a brick in the foundation. Years later, I found myself back in front of the world on live television, attempting to break the Guinness World Record for most pull-ups in 24 hours. Thousands of people watching, cameras rolling. And as I wrapped my hands around the bar, I remembered that first pathetic set of the laughter, the shame, the pain. And I smiled because I knew something those guys didn't. Pain is the only honest teacher. And I had paid my tuition in full. I didn't just beat that record once. I came back after failing multiple attempts and eventually ripped through 4,000 pull-ups in under 24 hours. Not because I was built for it, not because I was special, but because I turned humiliation into fuel. So here's the lesson. Next time you fail, don't run from it. Stare it in the face. Let it humiliate you. Let it sting. Then go to war with it until it becomes the reason people remember your name. Most people think pain is the signal to stop. For me, pain became the signal to keep going. Nothing taught me that lesson harder than the time I ran on broken legs during SEAL training. My shins started screaming. At first, I thought it was just soreness. Then it became sharper, deeper, like knives grinding into the bone. I went to medical. They did an x-ray, stress fracture, both legs. The doc looked at me like I was insane. "You keep this up, you'll do permanent damage." I nodded, and then I walked right back out to the sand. Because here's the truth, if I quit, those fractures would heal. But the scars in my mind, they'd never go away. I carried the label of a quitter for the rest of my life. So I taped my shins as tight as I could, shoved my feet back into my boots, and ran anyway. Every step was fire. I could feel the cracks in my bones widening. Each mile was a negotiation with hell. Guys around me quit. The bell rang over and over. Warm beds, hot food, safety. But I told myself pain is temporary, quitting is forever. One night, after hours of running drills, I collapsed on the barracks floor. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me anymore, just swollen meat wrapped in tape. I laid there staring at the ceiling, and the thought hit me, maybe this is it. Maybe I finally found the wall. But then another thought followed. If this is the wall, then I'm going through it. And I did. Not because my body was strong, my body was broke. I made it because my will refused. Cold water will strip you bare, but heat will cook you alive. That's what I learned in the Badwater Ultramarathon, one of the hardest races on earth. 135 miles across Death Valley in July. Imagine stepping out of your car in 20 degrees. The air hits you like an open oven. Your skin starts to burn within minutes. Now imagine running in it for 2 days straight. The asphalt was so hot my shoes stuck to it with every step like melted rubber. Heat shimmered off the road, bending the horizon. My water bottles turned warm within minutes, useless against the fire raging in my body. By mile 30, salt stains had caked my shirt. My tongue felt like sandpaper. I'd take a sip of water and it felt like it evaporated before it even hit my throat. By mile 50, I started hallucinating. The desert played tricks on me. Trees that weren't there, voices calling my name. I remember reaching for a shadow on the road thinking it was shade, only to realize it was just a mirage. At one point I sat down on the side of the road. My crew begged me to stop. My face was pale, my skin clammy, signs of heat stroke. A rational man would have quit right there. But I didn't come to the desert to be rational. I came to pay the price. So I stood up, my legs trembled, my vision tunneled. Every cell in my body screamed at me to stop. But I whispered to myself over and over, one more step, one more mile, one more breath. And somehow the miles added up. Not because I was stronger than the desert, but because I refused to let the desert decide who I was. Here's the truth. Life has its own deserts. Times when everything feels too hot, too dry, too hopeless. The question is, when you're standing in your own death valley, will you sit down and bake under the sun, or will you stand up and keep walking? You don't need a battlefield or a desert or an ultramarathon to face the hardest fight of your life. Sometimes the battlefield is 6 feet away, hanging on your wall. For me, it was the mirror. I call it the accountability mirror. Every night I'd stand in front of it and strip away every excuse, every lie. No filters, no comfort, just me versus the truth. Back when I was overweight and lost, I used to avoid mirrors. I'd glance at myself only long enough to shave or brush my teeth, then look away. Because every time I looked too long, I saw what I didn't want to admit, a weak man, a man who talked about change but never did it. So I forced myself to stop running. I started writing notes on sticky paper, slapping them on the mirror. Brutal truths. You're fat. You're lazy. You're lying to yourself. Most people think that kind of talk is negative. But what's truly negative? Pretending, sugarcoating, living in denial while your life rots away. Those sticky notes became my orders. Each night I added more. Run tomorrow, do 50 push-ups, study an hour. And every day I crossed them off or I didn't sleep. That mirror became my drill instructor, my judge, my executioner. And slowly I started to change. Not because I wanted to, not because it was easy, but because the man in the mirror demanded it. Here's the lesson. Nobody lies to you more than you lie to yourself. If you want freedom, if you want discipline, if you want to be unstoppable, you've got to start telling yourself the ugly truth, and the mirror never lies. So here we are. You've heard about the water, the desert, the mirror, the failures, the pain, but none of it means a damn thing if you're just sitting there listening like it's a story. This isn't a movie. This isn't entertainment. This is a call out. Right now, wherever you're sitting, your couch, your bed, your car, you know there's something you've been running from. Maybe it's your weight. Maybe it's your addiction. Maybe it's the business you keep saying you'll start, or the conversation you keep avoiding. And every day you delay, the chains get tighter. You tell yourself tomorrow, next week, someday. But someday is a disease. Someday is how you die with regret. Freedom isn't handed to you. It isn't given by governments or bosses or families. Freedom is earned and freedom is purchased with pain. And the price tag, it's steep. It means saying no to comfort. It means doing the work when you're tired. It means facing yourself in the mirror and owning your failures. It means sacrificing now so you don't rot later. So ask yourself, what's it going to be? You're going to stay soft? You're going to keep hiding behind excuses? Or are you ready to bleed a little, sweat a little, cry a little, to finally taste what freedom feels like? The clock's ticking. The world isn't waiting for you. Your dreams aren't waiting. Death sure as hell isn't waiting. So stand up, get moving, pay the price, because pain is the price of freedom. And if you're not willing to pay it, don't you dare complain about the life you're stuck in. The choice is yours, always has been. Listen, you don't need anyone's permission to change. You don't need anyone to save you. You don't need a miracle. What you need is pain, the kind that strips away weakness, the kind that carves discipline into your bones, the kind that reminds you you're alive and you've still got fight left in you. Every scar you carry, every failure, every sleepless night, it's not punishment, it's the down payment on your freedom. So stop waiting for life to get easier. Stop praying for comfort. Start praying for strength, because freedom isn't soft. Freedom isn't free. Freedom is built in the dark, forged in the fire, and paid for in blood, sweat, and tears. And if you're willing to pay the price, if you're willing to suffer for something greater, then nothing, no man, no circumstance, no failure can ever chain you again. So here's the truth. You've got one life, one shot, one chance to turn your pain into power. Don't waste it, because pain is the price of freedom.